Um, yeah, I'm really excited to be here. It's actually my third summit, and luckily now the first in Europe, so I hope I can attend them more often as I used to be. And this time I thought it's time to step on stage and also share a story of what we are doing, and especially what I'm doing with my DevOps Services team, and why we created pipelines on demand. But first, give me a little background about what my company is doing. I'm working for Swisscom. Swisscom is a Swiss traditional telecommunication company. When I say traditional, it actually means it's pretty old, right? So our foundation was late 1852 when the first telegraph system was implemented in Switzerland. So for the slow calculators, this is 165 years ago. I don't know if anyone else can beat this with their company history, actually. And this is how business looked like in the old days, right? Luckily, our offices and our dress code has changed over the years, and also our business. So now, 165 years later, we transformed into a TV streaming internet provider, which has to compete against tiny startups from all over the world, like, for example, WhatsApp. A couple of years back, they destroyed our whole messaging revenue in the mobile area with a free application. So the internet has created an open market without any boundaries. We have to maintain our position next to young dynamic competitors like WhatsApp from all over the world, which act inside our local Swiss market. So we needed to change the way we do business. So in the past, we usually bought enterprise software and paid for their customizations. This attitude is changing. So products nowadays are more and more software-based and developed by over 800 developers inside. We are still a Zelo-based organization with a couple of 3,000 engineers, and these are responsible from architecture till operating of our consumer-facing products. And in this organization, we have facing a typical disease of those enterprises, which is a combination of Zelo-based organization, over-engineered idle processes, a waterfall project management, and all this running inside an IT department, which is decoupled from the business. And according to the State of DevOps report, this results in a low IT performance. Right? We do 6 companies releases so far, and therefore we fall into that category. In August, we plan to switch to monthly releases, but as you see, even with 12 releases, we are still in the same category. So this organization and management style worked well in the past for big infrastructure projects, especially while infrastructures have a big, long life cycle. But this is totally different inside the software world, right? It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. What Charles Darwin once said about species and evolution fits 100% to our business needs nowadays. And ask yourself, what's the difference, or the main difference, between startups and big enterprises? It is actually speed. But how much speed are we talking about? According to the State of DevOps report again, a high IT performance organization can deploy about 200 times more often than we do. They have much shorter recovery times and much less failures. And this is exactly why we are doing DevOps and why everybody else should do DevOps. But how to get there? I give you a little insight of the start of our DevOps journey and what my team is actually doing. I agree with Scott Hanselman that said the most powerful tool we have as developers is automation. And to become faster, better, and more reliable, we had to automatize almost everything what is possible. And we created a team to support all this. And this team is called the DevOps Services team. We can't do continuous delivery, as you've seen. We switched from 6 to 12 releases a year. But we focus on automated delivery, I call it, because this is basically the whole preparation for getting faster afterwards. So we talked to our teams, and we discovered that some teams do already kind of CI, some have little scripts to automatize at least certain steps, And we also found a couple of them which basically had nothing, and we had to start from scratch with them. But we found one team which had a Bamboo server which covered the full pipeline from development till production, and everything was automatized. They had a 100 agent license on the system, which was far away from being used. So someone came up with the idea and say, hey, let's share it. Let's create a shared instance which everybody else can use. So this sounded like a pretty great idea, and we started the project because this server needed to be available from all other instances, no matter if it was dev, test, production, and no matter which application we wanted to reach. This project, as we are silo-based, involved a couple of teams, and all the teams provided little pieces of the puzzle to create a full picture. And this took a couple of months, actually, until our servers were up and running and the software was working. And then we started a friendly user test, and we sadly discovered we have a problem. With this shared instance, we couldn't deal with all the different requirements from the teams we got. And we actually figured out that CI/CD servers, in general, no matter which project you take, are not really ideal to share between the teams. ThoughtWorks pointed that out in their technology radar and recommends instances by teams to provide or prevent single point of failures, configuration conflicts between the teams, and also gigantic build queues on busy days. And really, I would like to have this information earlier. The experience we did then with a Bamboo server and to wait a couple of months to have this in place was so bad that we said we couldn't turn around now and go to the teams and say, hey, order your own infrastructure. You have to do it on your own. So the bad thing is, due to regulations on our market, we can't do cloud services like AWS or so. And the teams needed access to tools without running long infrastructure projects. So we came up with the idea of pipelines as a service. And we wanted to create a toolbox where teams can just pick their favorite tools specific to their needs. And we were not quite sure how to do this. And we couldn't definitely do this with the current way we ordered infrastructure. So we kind of had to build our own cloud. So we found an IaaS stack, which is VMware-based in Swisscom, which we actually sell to external customers. And we had to start a project again to get one of those stacks and make it internally available. As you can imagine, this was a lot of discussions between the teams and especially with security. And we finally got that after a couple of months. With our history in mind, we have a quite complex and diverse landscape. We did a survey 2016 and discovered that we have 35 programming languages, 75 frameworks, and about 25 different tools in the tool chain. And we needed to start somewhere. So we created an experiment and thought, right, let's publish just one simple service and see if it's realistic for us actually to do this, and if we can manage this with a minimal effort, because we didn't have a big team. And afterwards, would actually any one of the other teams really use those services? Our best engineer investigated every 3 minutes he had, and to be honest, we only had one engineer at that point in time, so I can really say he was the best. He created a prototype, followed the principles of infrastructure as code. And the whole setup is basically completely done in text files and shipped into Bitbucket. With this, any kind of changes to the infrastructure is transparent, it's traceable, and it's reproducible. And all the changes we do are really easily done. Even, for example, if we have to change our provider. The tools we used are, for example, Packer, Terraform, Ansible, and Docker. And these tools make it really easy to store your whole information in text files and basically spin up infrastructures on demand. So the first CI/CD service was running, and we found teams which were willing to try the service in the beta phase. And for example, a before and after picture is kind of, we had local build service in place, which had no connectivity, manual installations through different environments. After they use our service, We have one pipeline which has connectivity to all infrastructures, and everything is automated. So to get this result in the past, it would have taken a couple of months just to get the service in place. Now the teams get CI service within minutes. But the service is not the only thing. There is a whole new layer around that service. And our goal is to provide services so good that people prefer to use them. And I really recommend you to go to the service manual from the UK government. And this department is sharing lots of really valuable information, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We're not driven by business, so we carefully need to listen to our direct customers and to see if we're doing things right. We have a Jira service desk in place. Instead of emails, we use HipChat because for a lot of people it's more convenient. And we try to be in a lot of community events to be close to our customers. We are totally demand-driven, so the feature requests we get are transparent and the people can vote for them. And yeah, so what we did, we identified a common problem which was blocked by obstacles. We removed this, had an idea to build a prototype, and now our service is up and running, and we just get the feedback from the teams to make it better. And I'd like to share a couple of things. You probably gain a lot of knowledge, and I really recommend to share it with your infrastructure teams and so on. Be close to your customers and explain why and how you do stuff. Block results and make success visible. A DevOps transformation takes time, especially in enterprises, but even us as a 165 years company, we can do this. And it might be finished at some point from a transformation point, but you never stop improving. So here's some advice. Transformation is a learning process, so you have to be patient. It's an investment, so treat it like one. Yeah? Remove obstacles, and so that teams can actually focus on their real work. And give the freedom and enhance creativity, so you don't do the one-solution-fits-all approach. Thank you, and good luck for your own DevOps journey.